one of the things that people have been asking us for really since we started was what's known as a swivel thumb. And to be honest, it's not something I ever used. And this will be one of my first times ever using it. It's just the background I come from. We always liked really simple scissors. But over the years, this concept of the swivel has gotten more and more popular. And the idea is that it is more comfortable. So right out of the box, so I grabbed, I had some samples sent to me. I've got a whole bunch here. I'm going to talk about them. Right out of the box, I grabbed these swivel thumb, and you can see how that works, how it moves around. And I said, you know what, this does feel pretty cool. It feels pretty comfortable. So this is kind of a monster pair. These are like a 7-inch pair. I've got a whole variety of them with different types of blades and different shaping to them. So I was going to show you a few things. One of the things I like to do, and this can be kind of controversial, some people think it's not great or it is great, is to take like a thin piece of tissue or toilet paper, something quite thin, and to wet it, which I'm gonna do here. If I can get this, yeah, here we go. This is just well, you normally use this to spray plants. I couldn't find my great Matsumoto bottle. All right, and then, you know, without using a lot of pressure. So the idea is to very, very gentle, just like lay the tissue on, and then without pressing very hard, close, and see if it cuts all the way through evenly, and it does. Now, again, this is controversial. Some people will say, don't ever do that. I've done it my whole career, and it's never failed me. Like when I test a scissor or try a new scissor, if like it doesn't cut at the tip is usually dull. If it doesn't cut, again, it's up to you to try.
What happens if it doesn't cut all the way through? You should just return the scissor and...
Again, controversial, but to me, it's always like, you know, I don't have a pair here like that, but sometimes you'll go like, you'll close it and like the tip won't cut. Well, maybe that scissor isn't supposed to have a very sharp tip, believe it or not. Sometimes scissors, they don't overly sharpen the tips because people cut themselves, or the whole idea is you're supposed to cut inside the blade. So knowing the tool is important. But what I can say about these, or I'll just try the tip. You know, sometimes tips aren't as sharp as the rest of the scissor. But these seem like they are to me. I like that. I like the whole thing sharp. So right off the bat, that's my first thing. Controversial. I know some people will say don't do it. Some sharpeners do it, some don't. I was shown it very early in my career. But
Tristan Morrison is a thumbs up on the tissue.
Yeah. I don't just rely on that, obviously, because you're not cutting tissue, you're cutting hair. So I'll also use a mannequin. So here we have one. This one's are dry. I'll see how they feel dry. And then I'll see how they feel wet. So, you know, and I'll try them in a variety of different ways. So let's see how they feel like cutting graduation, like on a diagonal. So I'll just come in here and take a panel.
Do people use the swivel thumb as their workhorse scissor, or is it more for specific?
More and more popular. People are using them. You know, it used to be kind of, we even used to say, oh, it's a gimmick, it's a gimmick. But what I'm finding, you know, just being in the scissor business is it's more and more popular. I will say, even back in the day when we thought it was a gimmick, all the people that used them swore by them. So this is literally the first time I've ever cut hair with the swivel. So I'll tell you what I think.
Let's see how it goes.
All right, I'm gonna come in. I'm working on dry hair. I'll dampen it too. Remember, I'm just trying to test out to see how things feel to me. Bringing this down, 45 degrees, and let's just say I'm just gonna kind of cut a little bit of an angle of graduation here.
Is the swivel thumb moving?
So you can loosen it or tighten it. So I thought for me it made sense for it to be loose. So I loosened this a little bit, and depending on where your hand is, you see how it'll move. So yes, it's moving. Okay, so cutting the first section dry, felt very crisp, very clean cut. So I'm just gonna cut a few more here, and then maybe I'll do the other side wet to see how that feels.
Since you're transitioning from a stationary handle to the swivel, is there a learning curve or a feel?
I don't know. I thought there would be, but so far there isn't. I mean, again, I've never picked these up before. But, so I don't know. That's why I wanted to see. So again, I know lots of people, you know, if you're someone out there who uses them, let me know your thoughts and your input.
Darlene
I've
is
just never
wondering
used them
what-
before.
Darlene is wondering what scissors these are.
Well, these are from a factory that we're working with. So if I like them, so when you make something like scissors, you ask for certain things or you can design them from scratch, but a lot of factories have different models. So I described a few of the things, said I want to try some swivels. I want to try them with different types of blades, different thicknesses, some for dry cutting, some for wet cutting. So they sent me about 5 or 6 different prototypes. So if I like them, and you know, if we get a good response from people, they'll be HB Pro scissors. So they're our own brand. This is a very long scissor, 7-inch. I haven't used a 7-inch in a long time either. I go through different phases. I mean, I got to be honest. These feel great. They do. They feel clean. They feel sharp. I mean, you know, the other thing that you have to test is how long the edge stays on. So, you know, just doing one haircut and going, oh, these feel great, isn't really going to cut it. I'll have to keep these for a while and keep working with them. All right, so I've done like a little bit of square graduation. Now I'll practice a little bit of point cutting. So that'll tell me how the tips are. And again, you can see those tips feel great. So this is dry. I'll do the other side wet to see how it feels.
All right, Jorby, Sasho is coming in here.
Okay.
Hey, Sasho, nice to see you. He says he finally got the feather plie. Thanks for recommending it. Sasho,
Excellent.
let us know how it goes for you. And Sanchoy, here's you can't slide cut with the swivel.
Well, we'll find out because one of the pairs they sent me, I think it's this one, has a swivel and it says right here, cutting and sliding. It's like a dry cut. It's a fatter blade. So we're going to find out. I'm going to do, you know, a couple things on this mannequin. That was my idea. So I test it first on the toilet paper. I try it dry. I try it wet. I'll try it, you know, on a diagonal cutting angle, especially because with these swivels, we're trying to figure out the hand thing. So now this side for most people, right-handed people, is the uncomfortable side. So let's see what difference the swivel makes.
Dominic has a suggestion. Twist your wrist, Gerard, as you're not taking full benefit of the swivel thumb.
Twist my wrist. Not really sure what he means.
We'll keep trying until we get it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dominic. We appreciate all of you guys' input today. So let's see the slide. Is this the slide scissor?
No.
Oh.
I'm trying the same scissor, but doing it on wet hair just to see how the blades feel. And yes, any suggestions? Like I said, I've never used a swivel thumb before. So I guess I'm just holding it in a normal, this is a comfortable position for me. I guess over here I was like that. It kind of, I think for me, it seems like it moves the most when I'm doing point cutting, but if there's something else, I know it's a lot to type. That's the thing that sucks. I hate to type long comments, but anybody who uses swivel a lot, let me know your thoughts. So I'm just testing now, doing some square graduation, over directing back. And again, you know, as the toilet paper told me, again, controversial to some, these have a good blade to them. You know, I'm going to tell you as somebody, you know, who gets stuff from a lot of factories, sometimes right out, you know, right away I can tell you that they just don't put a good edge on. And I'll test it on the wet, thin toilet paper, and then I'll try it on hair, and I'll say, wow.
What happens? What are you looking for with the toilet paper test if it's not a good blade? What happens? It doesn't cut?
It won't cut. Yeah, it won't cut. I swear to you, guys, try it yourself, you know. Do it, take a piece of toilet paper, wet it, try it on a few different pairs of scissors that you have, and, you know, almost ultimately some of them won't cut all the way through. You know, there'll be a dull spot or they'll bend. Now, again, I know that can be controversial as to, you know, believe me, everything's controversial when it comes to scissors and shears. Because above all, it's a very personal thing. But it's just, you know, I've been doing this for 30 years and it's one of the things I learned early in my career. And I've always kind of relied on it. This particular pair being 7 inches, they've got a good, like, thickness to them. So I can really feel it like sitting on my finger nicely. So it's a powerful scissor. Again, yeah, I mean,
why would one need a 7-inch scissor?
I mean, listen, above all, it's personal choice and comfort.
Of course. course.
So you can go into all kinds of different things and say longer scissors are better for lines, longer scissors are better for scissor over comb, longer scissors can be better for point cutting in some respects because it's more comfortable. But above all, it's just what feels comfortable in your hand. Some people say, oh, I've got bigger hands, I'll use bigger scissors. So there's no real right and wrong here. And for me, throughout my career, I've tried to kind of play around. Like, let me just use 7-inch scissors for a while and see how comfortable it is. So just checking the side I cut dry is a little bit heavier. And just out of force of habit, I'll go through and check. And, that's actually a good thing because I want to see how well these do, which is dusting. So this side felt a little heavier. I'd cut it dry first. And again, if you're just joining us here, not really teaching a haircut today, although this will probably come together as something. I'm going to try several different pairs of shears or scissors. I mean, it's so controversial, we don't even know what we want to call them, right? I use both names interchangeably because I've been yelled at for using either one of them.
And so you're talking about scissor versus shear.
Yeah, I call them shearsers, just to make everyone happy.
Are all the samples you got swivel thumb?
Yes, they are, because that's what I was looking for. As I mentioned here, we have plenty of scissors on Hairbrain Pro that aren't swivel thumb, but I was looking to add some swivel thumb. So here's, I didn't even take the tags off, huh? Here's a slightly different version. It's obviously shorter, and to be honest, I didn't get much information on them, but these are different. Something else is different about them. They look very similar in a lot of ways other than being shorter. Let's see how they feel. So again, swivel thumb, shorter blade. I'm gonna work this up higher now. And again, I'll try to see how they feel on dry cutting. We gotta do the toilet paper test first. So let's see how these guys feel.
And in the meantime, guys, we're looking for your opinions. Do you like your swivel thumb? Do you want nothing to do with swivel? Let us know.
Hey, let's be honest. I was one of those I want nothing to do with swivel. I thought it was like a cheesy, corny thing. But that's just the background I came from. I started at Sassoon and we didn't like to use anything other than very basic.
My question is, with more things on a scissor, is that a chance for more things to go wrong with them?
I would have to say yes. This is a simple mechanism here. It seems like there's just like a screw. I was able to loosen and tighten these because I figured it made the most sense for it to be looser. I could be wrong. But this way, as I move it around, I felt like, okay, so I loosened mine right away. But yes, I mean, you need to be able to tighten your bumpers, tighten and loosen the thumb. These came with a special tool for here to tighten and loosen. But yeah, so this is pretty wet. Let's see how this is falling apart. Let's maybe over wet it. Here we go, this is damp. So again, this is controversial. Some people will say, no, never do it this way. Let's check the tip first. Okay, no bending whatsoever. Let's check the whole length of the blade. And without really using any pressure, I'll even take my thumb out. I think, that's kind of the key. So, I mean, to me, again, that shows a lot. But some of you might, again, if you've ever been told never to do that, then go ahead and say, oh, don't ever do that. We love a little controversy.
Ruth is giving us her opinion. She says that she has tried them and she wasn't a fan. She says she feel like she didn't have full control of the scissor.
Okay.
Fair.
Yeah. I don't know. So far to me, I'm trying. It's strangely, I'm not thinking about it very much. Someone mentioned earlier I should try something, but I'm not really sure what. But for me, they feel very comfortable and natural. So I'm going to kind of come up now. Let's see what happens with more kind of vertical cutting with more tension. So I'll do it a little dry and then a little bit wet. So coming off the head, and we'll come through here and do some square layering. Again, still feels very clean. They definitely have a little bit of crispness to them, which I don't mind. I like to be able to kind of feel the hair as I cut. Some people like, more of a buttery feeling. And that's a lot to do with how people, how the company, what kind of edge they put on the blade, maybe what kind of metal. This, I can definitely feel the cut, but more important to me, it's how clean it is. I don't know if you can capture that.
So that could be like a point of a difference, you know, versus
Yeah.
a crispy cut versus a smooth butter.
Yeah.
We have to say hello to Ivan Duda, Croatia. Hello, Ivan. I hope everything is well. Love seeing your success in the new year.
So, you know, and then just doing it in different ways. Sometimes people like to use like a whole blade when they cut, and sometimes people do more. So I'm just trying to get a feeling for all the different ways that it feels. And, you know, one way or another, fresh out of the box, like these are cutting well, both the 6-inch and the 7-inch. You know, it's also going to feel crispier because the hair is dry. And then let's see how that pointing does here. Going on kind of diagonal point cutting to break up the line. Again, feels great. Let's try some parallel point cutting, maybe a little bit deeper, straight into the hair. Just to kind of thin it a little bit. All feeling really good. Let's try these now on wet hair, see how that feels. So, you know, for me so far, I don't know, the thumb, I'm not even noticing anything. Meaning I feel very comfortable. Everything feels normal and comfortable. I'm not even really thinking about it, but it does move as I work.
And does that affect the outcome in any way?
Doesn't seem to be affecting in any kind of negative way. I guess the idea is to be more comfortable. I feel pretty comfortable. I feel everything feels pretty natural and comfortable to me. I mean, I guess I'm just getting a little bit of movement. But again, if there's something more dramatic that people do, I'd love to hear about it. That all feels very natural and comfortable to me. Bring this down. Let's try a little bit of point cutting because I overlapped the graduation. So I'm doing I did a little undercut graduation and then I did a little kind of square layers above it. And then just checking. I'll dampen this down now. I cut it dry first to feel it. So again, just testing out a few different things. There is also something I'm kind of excited to try that I've also never really tried much. Something called like a blending scissor, or, you know, not truly a thinning scissor. We'll talk about those in a minute. It's a little hard to do on a mannequin to press down like that. So I'll just hold it in the comb. Let's see how this feels when these two come together. Okay, that's all feeling good. No complaints there. Let me try that with the longer. Again, lots of times people like to work on there. And this is for me when I feel like the swivel is making the biggest, because you see where my thumb can just go like that. I think so far for me, as someone who hasn't done a lot of swivel cutting, this is making the most difference. Just the way that I can keep my thumb in that simple position. Okay. Let's see what the dry slot. Well, you know what? Let me try these blenders first. Again, I'll come through the hair that I just layered. So these, what's the idea with these is that one blade is completely dull. So the blunt, the solid blade has no edge on it. See how I run my fingers down there? There's actually no edge on it. So it's just there to hold the hair in place. And then these actually do the cutting. So let's see how that feels. The hair's already damp, so I'll try it on damp hair. And the idea would be, I guess, you know, like similar to kind of point cutting or, yeah, very small amount of hair comes out.
Do you normally use a thinning scissor on
I don't
hair?
ever use thinning scissors on anything.
Well, that's true, but...
So I don't use swivel. So this is for me testing out things that, you know, I do believe that as hairdressers, we should constantly try new and different things. So for me, this is new and different. I don't use a lot of thinning scissors for anything. I like this a lot better. This works really nicely. Kind of point cutting with them to break into this hair. So the idea is, again, we have that blunt blade and that you can just take out, you know, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a small percentage. Must be less than 30% of the hair coming out.
Uh-oh, funny the dog just...
Just woke up.
Yep, Sandra was asking about him. He's
Well,
he's
let's
awesome.
let him in.
All right. In the meantime, Gerard, Ruth was wondering why don't you use them? Why haven't you used a swivel?
A lot of it comes from, early in my career, I worked at Sassoon. I was a teacher at Sassoon. We were very specific about what we liked and what we didn't like. And the whole idea was scissors and things like that should be very simple. So for many years I used, very, very simple, straight, it was just a certain cultural thing. And then, you get used to it and it goes from there. And I probably, I don't really have a need that I don't have any body problems or hand problems. But with hair braid, we sell scissors. So, I want to obviously give people what they're looking for. So lots of people have been asking for a long time for swivel. So this year, I thought one of the things that we will look to do is see if we can create, a swivel. So I reached out to a few different manufacturers to see what we get. Okay, so these are the dry cutters. Let me come in here first and do what you would normally do most with a dry cutter. What I would normally do most, which is like what I like to call slicing, or some people maybe call sliding, tapering. Again, it's got the swivel thumb. You go inside the width of the blade, open and close without closing all the way. Okay, that feels great. Now, normally with something like this, if I was to test this on a piece of toilet paper or very, very thin paper towel, the whole idea with these is it should be a very soft cut. Oh, you see that? Look at that. See how it bends the hair all the way through? It didn't really cut this. So that's what I would be looking for personally. The whole idea of
one more time.
Yeah, the way that a dry cutting, you don't want it to cut crisp and clean and solid.
On a dry scissor.
Yeah, you want to push the hair and cut a very soft line.
So in this
here,
instance,
look,
this is what
I can
we're looking
feel
for.
it kind of bending. This is exactly what I would be looking for. I mean, it does cut, but look, it doesn't cut a clean, solid line.
Which is what
I did not know what I was going to get with this. I said, because I don't know. Sometimes they say it's a dry scissor, but there's really no difference whatsoever. But the whole idea of the dry scissor to me is that it doesn't cut a very clean, blunt line. So when I'm doing stuff like this,
that's the difference between a dry and a regular scissor.
More gentle, even for things like scissor over comb, or because I use dry cutting scissors for a lot of things because I don't always want my lines to be super blunt and solid. I like that little bit of kind of messiness to it. So that's interesting. For what I was just doing, I think they worked fantastic. Let's see, maybe picking them up. I will tie this into the back in a minute. So let's say like I'm taking out weight and then I'll come back and switch to something else. So this is kind of a way of like slicing into the ends. Also felt really good. Point cut a little bit of that excess off. So taking off the length in a kind of not a clean way. Yeah, getting the feel of that swivel, pushing it back over. Yeah, it seems like for me, and see like how I can go from there to there. Again, as someone who's not used a lot of swivel, that for me feels the best of the things that I've done.
Just switching positions.
Yeah, just the way that just rotates in your hand. So I'm like here, and it rotates in my hand to go, and then I come around, and see how it just moved all the way around. So that feels pretty cool, actually. As I come around.
I'm wondering if there's like the possibility of hair getting in that little tension screw or anything else that might be a problem.
Listen, the thing with tools is you need to know how to maintain them, all right? So any scissor, you're absolutely right, yes. Hair can get in things. I mean, any scissor, any shear, you should be washing it frequently with soap and water. I know, controversial, people think, I take them to the sink and I use a little bit of shampoo and I clean everything, get all the gook out, all the product off, rinse it really well, then I towel dry it really well with a very thin piece of paper towel, and then I put a few drops of oil and I make sure everything's dry and clean. But yes, I mean, the main reason why, people's scissors don't last is because they're not cleaning and oiling them and taking good care of them. At the very least, you can almost kind of do a lot of that just by using WD-40, which kind of is a degreaser and cleans them and lubricates them. All right, I switched back to the 7-inch. I went through here. I didn't go through technically. I just used the dry cutting scissor to kind of cut some textured layering into the sides. And now just using the 7-inch to kind of bring that.
When point cutting, do you normally hit it one way and then go back the other?
If I want it to be a little more irregular, so I'm kind of going like that. I want it to be a little more organic. If I want it sometimes people point cut to actually make things cleaner. Then I'd always go in one way and I'd keep up here. I was like, to get a little bit more regularity.
Ruth is wondering about if you get your scissors sharpened, or do you just get new ones? I've known hairdressers to do both.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? If you find a good sharpener, I think that we at Hairbrain have a relationship with the best sharpener in the country, Brent at Infinity Scissors out of LA. I personally think he's the best there is that I've ever dealt with.
How many times should you sharpen your scissor before you kind of retire them?
I mean, a good sharpener, well, yeah, I mean, every time they sharpen, I mean, a little bit of metal comes off, but it should, if someone's a good sharpener and a good pair of scissors, I've seen scissors last 15 years easily, but a good sharpener should be able to tell you that, these are all getting pretty close to done. I'm using a different pair of blenders now, which I actually kind of like a little bit more. They seem a little bit more, well, I didn't actually go in. I'm going to go in a little more aggressively with the whole blade. Yeah, I mean, you get a little bit of a line there. I would expect that you wouldn't get any line. But when you kind of come in, you get a little bit of a line in there. But when I come in on an angle, which is probably what I would do more, and I try to really just kind of filter it out, that makes the most sense to me. Something, again, I haven't used much of. I've never really used a lot of thinning scissors or blenders, but people keep asking for stuff like that. So, it's just like being a hairdresser and saying, oh, I never cut with a razor, or I never, whatever. I don't do this, or I don't do that. If people keep asking for it, you gotta maybe broaden your horizons. At least try it before you just say, okay, I've never done that, so I'm not gonna start doing it now. I mean, as long as it's not ethically wrong,
Mr. Scribbles, Matthew Strumsky is saying hello.
What's up, Scribbles?
And Ruth, Sasho just dropped his favorite scissor sharpener in the UK. I hope you got that.
Nice.
Back in the comments. Thank you, Sasho, for dropping your favorite scissor sharpener in London.
All right, I want to play a little bit more with this blender. So again, the idea is that this is completely blunt. I know I run my finger, there's no edge on here at all. So this one does have a little grip or something, I guess, that holds the hair in place. And then just these guys cut. These ones are a little curved. Looks like they're curved more towards the inside than the tip. I don't know, as I said, this happens very often. They send you stuff without much explanation. And which is fine with me because I'd rather figure it out for myself, because what people sometimes say and how it works for me isn't always the same. All right, so this hair is completely uncut and it's lifting over. I've dampened it, and I'm gonna try to see how this feels to kind of go through a little bit at a time. Again, this is where that swivel seems to make sense for me for point cutting and stuff like that. We have to get, because this way you don't have to bring your elbow up so high. So it seems to be something I would definitely say is a great benefit. I can keep my elbow low because my thumb can be in a different position. So kind of taking the thickness out of this piece as it overhangs the side. I mean, again, the goal here wasn't to do a haircut. It was to try to test these things out and see how they feel for me. But ultimately, I always like things to end up looking like something. Let's see how these guys go this way. Also very comfortable. Let's see, again, I haven't used this type of blender very much at all in any way. Let's see what happens. Just kind of coming through on a sliding move. Yeah, I mean, I see a bit of a line there. So that scares me a little bit, I'll be honest.
That's what we're here for. We want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly.
But let's see, something like this. That kind of makes sense. You know, it seems, and again, my tendency would almost never be to just go in and cut in one spot. Even with a scissor, I mean, just, you know, very rarely at this stage of my career do I do a lot of bluntness in the hair. But that's just me. This I'm liking, something like this, although it does stick in the hair a little bit. It seems like a nice way to kind of work this down. It does stick in the hair a little. Let's see how the other ones feel if they stick. You know, again.
I wonder if it's the size of the teeth?
Yeah, they all seem to stick. You know, I think if you're comfortable and expecting it, it's not such a big deal. Now I'm kind of getting used to the feeling of that.
Matthews Yastrzemski is saying that most people learn to use the blending scissor as a way, as a shortcut to thinning hair. It would be great to do a tutorial on how to use them properly.
Well, once I figure it out, I'll be sure to let you know, because I don't know how to use them properly. I've never used them, to be completely honest. You know, I can tell you right now, I don't think I'd want to just go in and, you know, it seems like I would use them to kind of melt things down a little bit at a time. So now maybe let's see how it would work on the ends here. But I definitely would need to keep playing with this, or find someone who's more of an expert. Because, you know, I'm sure there are plenty of people there. It's a popular tool. Yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting way to keep this hair kind of more one length, but like melt it down. These definitely feel like they need some oil right out of the box. I can kind of hear them squeaking. What else do we have? There are a few other pairs that I think they're just slightly different. I'm not sure. Well, I think this is just the length of these that's different. Like this was a 5.5 and this is a 6.5, but it says basically SX DS. Let's see how these are drier. These are for dry cutting. Okay, so they are a little different. Okay, I use dry cutting scissors very often on damp hair. For this kind of cutting, which I do a lot of. Slicing, I do tons and tons of that. And I do it on wet hair and dry hair. And also back cutting I do a lot of. Let's see how these feel for this. Yeah, these feel great. Again, blending, I would definitely need to see somebody how they're using them, what they're using them for. Because that doesn't come natural to me at all, the whole idea of the blending. But this kind of stuff, yeah, that feels great. Now, for dry cutting scissors, I mean, I've used all the ones that are out there. I've had ones that are worth thousands. We have one already on Hairbrained, the Hairbrained HB Dry, which I think is phenomenal. But it's always nice to feel others. And then this one has the swivel thumb. So who knows, maybe a dry cutting scissor with a swivel thumb. Now I am using my dry cutting scissor on wet hair, which I do a lot. And then see for the line, I do sometimes as well, because it doesn't cut as blunt. And believe it or not, I don't always want everything to be blunt and sharp. I like things a little bit grown in and softer. And as we saw before on the tissue, there's a little bit of bend in these before they cut. So again, you know, at least able to kind of turn that into a little bit of a haircut as I test. We did a little graduation. As I look at this, the back here looks a little heavy, so we'll come back since I've got these dry cutters here. Great for sliding and slicing. So that's something that I might do right here. Yep, and that does feel great. Just coming in, opening, closing without closing all the way.
So far the jury's still out on the thinning scissor.
Yeah.
But the dry and the 7-inch, are you feeling? Are you?
Yeah, and it's the swivel that I'm definitely feeling. I mean, I don't, you know, or not feeling. Like it feels completely natural to me. I can feel the scissor like turning in certain positions gently. But, you know, in the past, sometimes I've been in a class and I've gone to pick one up that a student's had, and it's felt really foreign. So I don't know if that was just me, because here that I have an open mind about it, I'm not feeling anything unusual. It's like, it just feels not normal and comfortable. As I just move my hand around here, it's just kind of moving. I guess normally, obviously, it doesn't move, so it's the elbow, you know, that's different. Like I can do things without moving my elbow, but I'm kind of inclined to move my elbow a little bit. As I said, I haven't really ever had any major wrist or elbow problems or anything like that. I know a lot of people that do, you know, over the years have sworn by the swivel, oh, I can't use anything else. So perhaps there's a way that they always keep their elbow down and they're able to kind of like move it around. But I'm just kind of going in with what feels natural and comfortable. I can feel the swivel moving a little bit.
Does it affect your line or your...
Doesn't seem to, I mean, at all. Not in any kind of a negative way that I can see. So I'll come back through on this side. Let's work a little damp. Find where that layering was. See, like there, my elbow's down. You see how that turned all the way around? It's like in that position.
Maybe that's what Dominic was trying to mention earlier.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that wouldn't normally happen. I'd have to be like this. So here's the difference. I'd be like this. But here with these, as I, you know, on this side, I'm just going to over direct these back into this layered panel, right? So working, and beautiful comb. This is the Primp dry cutting comb. Just dry cutting because it's got deeper wells. So now as I come around and I turn this, I get everything more comfortable here. I can keep my elbow down. You know, again, I'm just finding for me, if I don't overthink what my thumb is doing, it seems to kind of naturally work out well. So I'm coming around.
Michael Wild Rice is saying hello. And now that the warmer weather has come around, Gerard, you have a request to DJ again.
Yeah, you know, we got a dog, and the dog has taken up all my free time. Literally, we're almost up to, yesterday we did 9 miles. So as soon as the dog kind of mellows out, okay, so yeah, here, I deliberately twisted my thumb around, so maybe I can see, you know, what, when it's like that versus like that. So, I mean, you just got options, but yes, when it comes to DJing, I'm dying to. I haven't touched my setup in quite a while. It's not unusual for me. I've gone in the past years without touching it at all, and then just jump in and do it every day for months. And I'm feeling like I need to get back to that.
Uh-oh, Gerard. Matthew's saying his dog didn't mellow out until 8 years. That means we got some time.
Yeah, the dog's pretty mellow. It's just, you know, getting that consistent schedule, and you know,
we just need to train him.
I'm not used to walking 8 miles a day and then also doing DJing. So again, here it really kind of comes into play because you can see it just like as I move around, I come through and it just kind of moves right into position this way. Let's see if I come back that way, it just kind of flips the other way. So I can definitely see some comfort benefits there. I mean, I'll say for me, the simplest thing I can say is it doesn't feel weird at all, which that was always the thing, like, oh, that's so weird. Like, why? You know, that's not necessary. It's weird. Honestly, if I wasn't, it's almost like I can be unaware that there's a swivel there. It's just very comfortable. And I see some benefits when I go in certain directions. It kind of spins around without me even thinking about it. So for me, yeah, the idea of the swivel, these blades themselves from this particular manufacturer, this factory, again, you know, that's how it works. You come up with an idea, you reach out to different factories. They either have a prototype similar, which believe me, some of these companies have thousands of prototypes, and you can say, send me all the different prototypes you have on swivel, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what they did. They sent me a bunch of different ones. Swivel feels great, feels very normal, natural to me. The dry cutters feel great. The blades, as you can see on my little test there using the tissue, they performed as I would want them to. And then even the dry cutting scissor performed as I would want it to on there. And then the only other thing that would go into this for me is these gotta last. So how long does that edge last? Because, you know, if a scissor feels great for a couple weeks after you've spent money on it, that's not a good thing. You know, it's got to last. A good edge should last. You know, someone who's in the salon busy cutting hair every day, that thing should feel great for at least 6 months, I think. You know, maybe even longer. But anything less than that, that doesn't seem right. So that would be the only thing left here, is to see how long this edge lasts. Because this sharpness feels good. Again, it is a crispier cut. Again, I don't know exactly the difference in how they sharpen them, where sometimes it's more buttery, where you don't feel it at all. Here
do all of them have a crispy
so far
finish?
Yeah, so far they do.
So it almost has to be in the description.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of scissors do say that, you know. But I just want to say that's not a bad thing. If you feel it, and then it's bending hair and the line doesn't look good, and these lines are perfect. Let me try another one. Just change it up. I think, again, there's a few that seem very, very similar that I haven't even, oh, that's the dry cutting. I keep picking that up because I like it. I think this might be the only one I haven't tried. Let's try it on the, a little bit on the tissue.
And Sandro, I was wondering about the slide cutting. I mentioned earlier.
It felt fine to me. You know, again, I don't do a lot of this. I'll try it. Now there's slicing and sliding. I typically do a lot more slicing, where I open and close the scissor. But then there's also what people call sliding, which I'll do a little bit of here. And again, it's a kind of much more of a Tony and Guy thing. I was fortunate to learn it a little bit, but it's not something I do a ton of, but I'll try it, where you can come in here and kind of, and it felt fine to me. It's like something great for face framing. Try again, make sure. I think that was more that my combing, I didn't have all the hair there. So it's like kind of closing as you move in one motion. Yeah, I mean, you know, again, I would rather someone who's really does that a lot to feel it and see what it feels like. But to me, as someone who doesn't do it a lot, it feels great. Kind of getting like some face framing in there in a free-form way. There's like a mini version. This I tend to do a lot more of, where you just kind of, as opposed to this, opening and closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, which I call slicing, which I use a lot. You know, the sliding, where it's just like that one movement and the blade is actually, you know, pulling down on the hair. I mean, this feels really good to me. I was gonna finish this panel. So again, the whole idea here, and this is what I do. I get stuff like this all the time. I mean, a lot of times I get stuff and after a minute I'm like, I don't like it, it's garbage. Or, you know, something's not right. Sometimes I don't even get past this. You know, if it's supposed to be a good cutting scissor and I can put it on a damp piece of tissue and I feel like it does not, again, no, that's controversial. I don't know if anybody's freaking out. But sometimes people do. But I've been doing it. I learned it as an assistant from the first hairdresser I worked with. He used to do it on every scissor. And I've always done it. And it's never failed me. If it does that on damp tissue, then it usually cuts really well. Let's really dial in on the tip here. And I'll try to do a little bit of kind of technical cutting with the tip, or I come through here and I like open and close without closing and slide my hand through. Just extend the length. You know, this will really tell you quickly. So if you've got a tip that won't cut through tissue, wet tissue, it's definitely not going to do this well. So again, I can see some of the benefit there of the swivel because I'm able to keep my elbow down. But I mean, I'll have to keep playing with these and, you know, see what other people think and feel. I by no means, first time I've ever used a swivel in my life. First time I ever used a blender. So just trying new things out and seeing how they feel.
And we hope you guys do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the point of being in a craft for many, many years if you're not going to try new things? You know, I always say my buddy DJ Muldoon has something called knowledge destroys fear. I always like to say the opposite, that dogma creates fear. So when you believe that there's a right or a wrong, like, oh my God, swivel scissors, that's the worst, that's terrible, you should never do that. You're just created fear for yourself because you might be missing out on something. And you know, it might take a while. It took me 30 years, but here I am, trying them out. So that a bit free form leaves me with a little disconnection at the front. Then again, coming back in a little bit free form. I've been able to kind of create this fun little bulb. It's a little asymmetric because both sides were cut a bit differently. Let's try one more thing while we're here. One last thing. Let's do some stuff with bangs. So let's just come back around the front here and we'll cut some of the stuff off on the heavy side. Again, can be another way. I just want to see how this feels. I'm going to try these blenders again. These I really haven't gotten the feel of yet. So I'm just going to see what happens if I try to just kind of pre-lighten it. See, I like that. It doesn't create any kind of a line when I go in on an angle, like so. And it does kind of pre-lighten it so that when I come back here, let's say I wanted to, you know, cut the length off afterwards. It's a nice way to kind of pre-lighten. Now, I'm noticing if I take a lot of hair is when it gets stuck. And it wasn't even stuck, it just, you can feel it get, like, it bunches up a little bit more. So it seems better for me to take less hair.
And what's the difference between a texturizing scissor that has many teeth versus less teeth? What's the thoughts behind that?
You know, again, like, I'm by no means a texturizing scissor expert. And I will say, but just the logic of it is like, you know, the more teeth, typically the more weight I would imagine it takes out, where the more separation, the more gaps it's taking out, more chunky. But as I said, this is all a learning process for me. Only time I've ever really used any kind of texturizing scissor is to do like a little bit of scissor over comb detail on shadowing. I very rarely use them for anything else. So I'd love to hear what other people have to say about that, because I can guarantee you there are people who have more expertise with it than me. So I've kind of lightened it in here. And then let's try that sliding again and see if we can come back from this side and then maybe slide this way. I mean, these feel great for that. And that's different scissor. It's the sliding scissor. Dry cutting or sliding. That's just kind of like that one movement where you, and that feels great. I mean, it comes off beautifully. And then let's think about this. Let's come back from here and try some of that from behind. Just again, so we don't have that solid corner. Again, more than anything, I'm just kind of playing around here just to see how the scissor works and what it does. All right, so I feel like I've got a better understanding of these different tools in this particular manufacturer. It feels like they make good stuff. So I'm going to continue my conversation with them. As I mentioned, I can feel now the dry cutting scissor isn't crunchy at all. And again, crunchy is not a bad thing. I want some people
it's
only
just different.
It's different. It has to do with the type of metal, has to do with a little bit of things.
Sasha was saying that a cobalt metal usually offers a crispier.
Yeah, it's crispy. I mean, you just feel the cuts. But again, if you look at the cut, if the cut looks not clean, well, that's not good, but these are laser clean.
Yes, it all just depends on knowledge, really. If your scissor is more of a buttery feel, if you get a pair of crispier scissor, it may feel weird or wrong or...
Totally. And that's the main thing about scissors. I mean, again, I know people that, you know, they just love the scissor that they have. And if it's giving you the result, it's such a personal, it's like jewelry. Who am I to tell you that that ring is the right ring for you or not the right ring for you? But it's got to perform. I mean, one way or the other.
Darlene is wondering, what are some of your favorite scissor brands?
HB Pro is my favorite. That's our brand because we partner with manufacturers to, you know, to create things. Historically, some of my favorites would be number one, a company called NIC, a Japanese company, Joel, Wings, some of the newer ones, BMAC and Mizutani. But traditionally, I was always a NIC fan. NIC, that's a small scissor manufacturer out of Japan. A lot of people have never heard of it.
Super high quality.
Yep, and a lot of, you know, when we were designing our own, I was looking at ways to, now again, you can feel, so I will say, so this is not the dry cutting scissor that I'm using now, and it doesn't feel great for this kind of cutting.
Why? What's happening?
It's not, you know, for that kind of sliding or slicing, you don't want to feel any drag. And because of that crunchiness, I was feeling some drag. Now there's no drag whatsoever when I switch to this.
Can your client feel drag?
Probably, yeah, they can. In that kind of cutting, they can. And I think sometimes that's where people get turned off to that. So, you know, in the traditional sense, these feel great for cutting lines. They felt fine for point cutting, but I didn't really like them for sliding or slicing. So I wouldn't say it's like all purpose, which is fine because not, you know, I don't know if there's any scissor that's all purpose. Let's see how these feel. So again, just a little bit into the mind of, you know, how I kind of test things, whether it be, you know, I do this with everything. We get tons and tons of combs and clips and I just kind of get out my mannequins, I play around. You know, with this, I didn't go into it with any mind. I just knew, hey, I could cut this mannequin down. I'm not really worried about, you know, where it goes and have some fun doing it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that and hopefully within the near future, we'll have the perfect swivel thumb scissor and we'll get to that point where we can really kind of work with something maybe along the blending lines as well. Here coming back with that blender. Yeah, I like that when it moves. All right, guys, take it easy.